All right, today we're going to break down a really powerful sermon on redemption from Bishop Mari Emanuel. It's a message that takes you from feeling completely and utterly lost to the promise of a total life-changing transformation. So let's get into it and see how this argument is built. The sermon just jumps right in with this incredibly raw, unfiltered invitation. You know what's missing here? Any kind of condition. There's no fine print, no clean yourself up first. It immediately makes it clear that this message is for anyone who feels like they've hit rock bottom. The starting point is right where you are right now. And the first thing the sermon does is focus on a very specific and I think very common internal struggle, that crippling feeling that you are just too far gone, that you're somehow beyond forgiveness. Bishop Emanuel actually gives a voice to this doubt, the one that whispers, "It's too late for you." But here's the crucial twist he presents. He frames this voice not as your own logical thinking, but as a lie from an external source, what he calls Satan, that's specifically designed to stop you from even trying to seek help. Okay, so from that personal internal struggle, the sermon then zooms out to diagnose a much bigger problem, one it sees at the very heart of modern life, a deep, profound spiritual emptiness. This slide really captures the central paradox that the sermon lays out. It uses the example of someone who seemingly has it all. We're talking money, fame, the whole shebang. But on the inside, they feel this incredible chaos. The diagnosis? They've gained the whole world, but in the process, they've lost their soul. So why does that emptiness stick around, even with all that success? The sermon introduces this concept of an infinite space inside every one of us. The logic goes like this. That space was created by an infinite God, so it can only be filled by that same infinite God. All the worldly stuff, money, power, prestige, it's all finite. It's just not big enough to fill that God-sized hole. So if the problem is this infinite emptiness that nothing in the world can fill, what's the solution? Well, the sermon frames it as a really simple, unconditional invitation to just come back, no matter what you've done or where you've been. This quote right here from the Gospel of John is presented as the foundational promise. The sermon's take on it is absolute. The door is never, ever closed. It's basically a guarantee that anyone, and it means anyone, who turns towards mercy will be accepted, no exceptions. And the sermon doesn't just paint a picture of God passively waiting for you to show up. It uses this powerful metaphor of the Good Shepherd to show that the search is active. This isn't about you having to stumble your way back in the dark all alone. It's about a God who is actively out there, searching for the one who's lost, with the full intention of bringing them home. So what happens if you accept this invitation? This leads to the sermon's ultimate promise. And it's not just about being forgiven for what you did, it's about a complete and total transformation of who you are. Here's the before picture. The sermon uses this really vivid language, a slave swimming in sin, to describe a state of being trapped, totally directionless, and just submerged in a life that's disconnected from God. And then, this is the after. The change is radical. You see that shift in identity from a slave to a son, from living in darkness to living in holiness and light. It's presented as a complete change in your status, from being an outcast to being a member of the family. The sermon wraps everything up with a really powerful call to action. It argues that this offer isn't just sitting there indefinitely, but that it shows up in our lives during specific moments called the time of visitation. This is where a big theological idea becomes incredibly personal and concrete. The sermon suggests this visitation isn't some booming voice from the clouds. No, it's something that happens through ordinary, everyday events. And just look at these examples. A friend's simple invitation, a sudden health scare, the death of a loved one. These are all presented as potential moments of awakening. They're framed as God knocking at the door, giving you a clear chance to stop, reevaluate, and change your path. But, and this is the warning, these moments can be so easily ignored or just missed entirely. This final quote really brings all that urgency down to a single point in time, today. The message is all about the immediate present. The choice isn't something you can put off until tomorrow or next week. It's about what you do right now in the very moment you hear the voice. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, regardless of your personal beliefs, you have to admit the structure of this message is incredibly compelling. It taps into a universal feeling of emptiness, it diagnoses the cause, it offers an unconditional solution, and it ends with a very urgent personal call to action. It really leaves us with a question, doesn't it? In a world that's often so complex and uncertain, what is the enduring power of such a simple, absolute path to redemption?